So I wanted to take a moment to talk about what men walking away is. What is the men walking away movement? And making it very clear that it's not MGTOW, because there's some people who are beginning to confuse men walking away with MGTOW, and they are very, very different. So just let's jump into MGTOW very quickly. What is MGTOW? MGTOW stands for men going their own way. And if we look at Wikipedia's definition of it, it says that MGTOW is an anti feminist, misogynistic, and mostly online community advocating for men to separate themselves from women and society, which they believe has been corrupted by feminism. The community is part of the Manosphere, a collection of anti feminist websites and online communities that also includes the men's rights movement, the INCELs, and pickup artists. Like other Manosphere communities, MGTOW overlaps with the neo reactionary alt right movement and has been implicated in online harassment of women. The Southern Poverty Law Center categorizes MGTOW as part of the male supremacist ideology. Now, let me make it very clear, I'm not attacking at the MGTOW community, but I'm just pointing out what Wikipedia has listed. And of course, it's been edited by different people who are very much against MGTOW, but I wanted you guys to see this, right? Because MGTOW is branded as male separatism, and the original definition of MGTOW 2.0 was men choosing not to marry, have children, and instead focus on themselves and their own happiness. Then it evolved in men separating themselves socially, financially, economically from women in the state, and that's where it presently is. And I talked about this a number of years ago. So now that you understand what MGTOW is, we can talk about what MWA is, okay, or men walking away. And I think that it makes a lot more sense for men right now because it's whatever you choose, essentially. Men walking away, all right, are MWA. So MWA, or is an acronym for men walking away, a movement of primarily heterosexual men who choose to opt out of Western society and relationships with Western women, which they view as unfavorable and unfair. MWAs focus on self preservation and may relocate to other countries or cultures where they find more compatible partners or lifestyles. MWAs are different from MGTOW, men going their own way, in that they do not necessarily reject all forms of relationships with women, but rather seek alternatives to Western ones. Some MWAs are passport bros, a subgroup of MWA who travel abroad frequently. And, an example, John became an MWA after his divorce and moved to Thailand, where he met his new wife. So MWA is very, very different from the MGTOW movement. Okay, it started off as a philosophy, and it has changed substantially. And for those of you that don't know, we also do have our own website, right? So if you go to menwalkingaway.com, we have our own website. You can see our mission. MWA is dedicated to providing support and community for men who choose to opt out of Western society and relationships with Western women seeking alternatives for self preservation and fulfillment. Our vision is to create a space where men can explore non traditional lifestyles and relationships without judgment, and to foster understanding and acceptance of diverse paths to happiness and fulfillment. Core values: self preservation, prioritizing personal well being and happiness; freedom, embracing the freedom to choose one's own path in life; respect, respecting the choices and autonomy of others; community, providing support and camaraderie for like minded individuals. And that's really it. Okay? It's not about separating. It's not about separating themselves from women. If a man finds a good woman in Western society, he can walk away with her. Someone said this, and it's very, very true when it comes to good women in Western society. For every one good woman in Western society, you have 20 good men chasing her. And that's the reason why men are walking away from Western society. They're not saying that there are no good women left in Western society, but what they are saying is that when you do find a good woman in Western society, you have that many more guys that are all going after the same women, because the typical woman in Western society does not have the qualities and the characteristics that the typical man is looking for. And you can see this with a lot of these women who know their value in Western society. Okay? They're not in the streets. They don't dress like garden tools. They have self-respect. They don't speak to men disrespectfully. They don't carry themselves in a disrespectful manner. They were typically raised well by their parents. They have parents who are actively in their lives usually. It's a complete night and day. And whenever a man finds these types of women, you're going to find a bunch of men chasing after these exact women. When you find a woman like this, usually she's already married. She's already married and she's already had her kids. And if she was the type of woman that would, you know, go out on her husband and monkey branch to another man, then obviously that would not be the kind of woman that men are looking for. So when you find a woman who is able to pair bond with her husband, who remains loyal to her husband, who wants to have children, wants to have a family, you know, does not subscribe to the feminist narrative, and is just more pleasant to be around, fit, feminine, and friendly. She has a million different options. She really does, because that's what the average man is actually looking for. You have to understand that these guys, the simp, these men who are, paying the bills for only fools and lonely fans models, these are mentally unstable, mentally unhealthy guys. They are not mentally healthy guys. Okay? They are just as bad as the garden tools that they are purchasing. And that's the honest goodness reality of it. So men walking away is a much healthier perspective on life, and you cannot tell a man how to walk away. It's the honest to goodness truth. And here's the great thing about MWA. Everyone's out here with these labels. MWA is an action. If a label becomes too toxic, men will just walk away from it as well. And that's the power of MWA. You're always walking away. If the Philippines, where a lot of men are going now, it's become extremely toxic because of the Sims that are going over there, and the expectation of the Filipinos is increasing. So now they believe that they deserve, even more, because they know that the men are leaving Western society not because they cannot get a woman in Western society, but they do not want the women in Western society. They will pick up a woman who is homeless off the street with a good heart and culture in the Philippines than they would pick up a so-called baddie with a medical degree and a bad attitude from Western society. And women in Western society don't get this yet. They do not comprehend that a man will more happily pick up a man with money will more happily pick up a woman off the streets that is living in the streets and is, taking food out of the trash to survive. They are more likely to take this woman and give this woman a good life and be happy with this woman, right? Than a woman in Western society right now. Because they are looking for women that have culture and some level of class. Just because she's poor doesn't mean she doesn't have class. Just because she's rich doesn't mean she has class. How many women do you see today that are multi-millionaires? They're all over you. They're all over YouTube. They're all over Instagram. They're all over social media, and they have all the money in the world. And it just takes a couple of keywords, and you can find them busting it wide open on the net. And they don't even have an OnlyFools. They don't even have an OnlyFools. They put it on. It's on there for free. And these are the women who think that they deserve billionaires and trillionaires. Men walking away is not the same as MGTOW. They are like night and day. And it's up to every man for himself to figure out how he chooses to walk away. Some men are walking away while not necessarily leaving Western society, but making just enough money to survive and thrive, but they're not marrying, they're not having children, they're not dating, they're not engaging in relationships in Western society. And that works just fine for them. That works just fine for them. You know, they're basically choosing their own path. They're walking away from a society that doesn't want them, doesn't like them, and they're forging ahead. And they're doing it on their own terms, which is what men have always done. Because basically, men have to succeed or they don't survive. So I hope that cleared things up. What do you guys think about this? What do you think about men walking away? I truly believe that MWA is also much more beneficial for men right now, in the sense that compared to MGTOW, they're on a list right now. You use all of these guys are going around saying, screaming MGTOW like it's Bankai, but it's like, bro, they're watching you, and it's like, I don't care. Hold the line for what? You're gonna fight over this thing? You're gonna risk your life for this thing, for a label? And it's like, I've always said this before. I've said this many times, but a lot of men no longer adhere to this notion that a man should value his life and his self-preservation over all else, and that includes walking away from things that are no longer working for you, including labels. So if you're so, you know, I feel like a lot of men who have no power, just like how feminism grew, it grew because you had women who felt like they had no power, and as a result of what the feminists did, no matter how toxic, they latched onto it because it made them feel powerful. Even women who now condemn feminism still call themselves feminist because without it they feel powerless. It's the truth. It's the truth. There's some women who will never let it go because without the label they feel completely powerless. And even as they criticize what it is, even as they say, and even as they, tell men that, hey guys, we see what's happening, they'll never let go of the label because they feel powerless without it. And I think that's how it is with a lot of with a lot of guys who are still, holding on to that. They feel powerless without a label. Men walking away, on the other hand, they don't give a damn. They're living their best life. They are living their best life. They don't care. They're not worried about the outside. They're not worried about labels. They're not worried about anyone else. They will walk away from anything that is no longer benefiting them, and anything that can, can dampen or reduce their chances of self-preservation. And there's some people who will say, "Oh, you're a coward." I'm a coward because I'm walking away. Hold the line, bro. We're not friends. I'm doing what it takes for me to survive. Okay. And if this isn't working for me anymore, if a bunch of people show up and say, if three letters, if the F to the B to the I shows up and says, "Hey, are you a part of this community?" No. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I have nothing to do with these individuals. I'm just here minding my business. So what are you doing? Listen, I live on my own terms. I've walked away from society. I'm just here making my money and and thriving. So how do you feel about women? I feel absolutely no way about women. I think there are some great women in this world. I think there's some bad women in this world. I think there are some great men in this world. I think there's some bad men in this world. People are people, and I'm just here, focusing on myself and trying to live my best life. You know, I'm not out here screaming bankai. But anyway, guys, like I said, I'm not criticizing MGTOW, but I'm just trying to draw that distinction of the differences between, MWA, men walking away, and MGTOW. What do you guys think about this? And do you agree that for men, especially today, it's a better way? It's just better just to say MWA, versus risking your name being put on a list. Anyway, that's just my thought. What do you guys think of the MWA movement? What do you think about the philosophy? What do you think how it should evolve over time? You know, I want to know your thoughts on everything we discussed here today. So let me know what you think in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away, and cheers.